Welcome to the deep dive. A lot of folks get into woodworking. They build some cool starter projects, feel pretty good about their progress.
Yeah, they get the basics down.
Exactly. But then they hit a wall when they try and actually sell those creations.
It's a really common frustration.
So today we're diving into why those simple, beginner projects often just don't translate into sales.
And maybe more importantly, what you should focus on instead if you actually want to make some money with your woodworking.
Right. What's the path to profitability?
And we've got some really helpful resources to unpack this. We're looking at guides on batching more involved projects.
Okay.
Articles really digging into why those first simple builds don't quite cut it in the market.
Uh-huh.
Some of my own sort of notes on the disconnect between online hype and, well, market reality.
Yeah, the YouTube effect.
Pretty much. And even a profit transition guide specifically for woodworkers. It's got quizzes, key takeaways, that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. So for you, the learner, our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to give you a clear, no-nonsense picture of the woodworking market.
Yeah, we want to get past that idea that you can just knock out a few basic things and bam, instant income.
It rarely works like that. So we want to arm you with real, actionable strategies. How to go beyond just practice pieces.
And start making items that customers actually value, stuff they're willing to pay for.
Exactly. Help you focus your effort where it counts, and hopefully avoid that discouragement when projects you spend time on just don't connect with buyers.
Makes sense. So where should we start? Maybe with the value of those beginner projects themselves.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. We need to acknowledge why they're important first, even if they don't sell.
Right, because they are absolutely essential for skill building. That's their primary role, really.
Definitely. You can't just, jump into building a complex cabinet without mastering the fundamentals first.
No.
Think about it. Those first few projects, maybe a basic box, a simple shelf, that's where you really start to get a feel for precision.
Learning to measure accurately, making sure cuts are straight.
And realizing how even tiny mistakes can throw everything off later.
Absolutely. And it's not just measuring, it's your first taste of basic joinery, right?
Yeah, like butt joints, maybe lap joints.
Simple box joints even. Just understanding how wood pieces connect.
And you start learning about wood itself, how pine feels different from oak.
Yeah, hardwood versus softwood, grain direction.
Yeah.
That's all fundamental stuff you pick up.
And, maybe most importantly, getting comfortable and safe with your tools.
Oh, huge. Saws, drills, sanders. Learning to handle them properly.
Knowing the safety procedures, how much pressure to use, that all comes from those early builds.
And finishing, too. Even just basic sanding, maybe throwing on some stain or sealer, seeing how it transforms the wood.
Right. It all builds confidence. Finishing even a simple project feels good, makes you want to try something harder next time.
Exactly. They're your training ground, low stakes. You learn the materials, learn the tools without market pressure. They are like indispensable stepping stones.
Okay, agreed. Beginner projects essential for learning. But the big question remains.
Why don't they sell?
Yeah. Where's the disconnect between learning those skills and actually earning from them?
Well, I think it helps to think about why people buy handcrafted stuff in the first place.
Okay.
And mostly those really simple beginner projects, they often lack uniqueness. There's just not much to make them stand out.
Because lots of beginners can make them.
Exactly. The market gets saturated pretty quickly with very similar basic items. Simple picture frames, basic boxes, that kind of thing.
Right. If everyone's making the same thing, yours doesn't look special.
And often they have kind of limited functionality or aesthetic appeal compared to more complex pieces.
Okay.
Think like a buyer. Are you going to pay much for a plain little shelf you could probably knock together yourself? Or are you looking for something with, more visual interest, a unique design?
Something that actually solves a problem or looks really good in your house, both beautiful and useful.
Precisely. Which brings us back to why people buy handmade. They're usually looking for quality craftsmanship, right?
Yeah. Solid joints, smooth finish, attention to detail.
Things that last. And unique design, something that doesn't look like it came from a big box store.
Something with personality.
Right. And purpose. It needs to do something well or fill a specific need beautifully.
And you mentioned gifting, too.
Yeah, that's a big one. People often want something special, something impressive when they're buying a handcrafted gift.
So, that coaster you made from a scrap 2x4? Probably not hitting those marks for a wedding present?
Probably not. Cheap materials, rough finish.
Hmm.
Those kinds of projects, while great for practice, they just don't usually meet those criteria of quality, uniqueness, or refined finish that buyers are actually willing to pay decent money for.
Okay, okay. That all tracks. But then why do we see so much stuff online? Videos, TikToks, blog posts
Hmm.
suggesting you can make big money with super simple, often scrap wood projects.
Ah, yes. The online illusion.
It feels like a totally different world online sometimes.
It kind of is, and that's a really critical point about how online content works. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, their main role is views, engagement.
Right. Clicks and watch time.
So, content that's fast, uses cheap stuff, promises an easy win, that stuff performs really well. It attracts a huge audience, especially beginners who are looking for inspiration.
Yeah, those sped up videos make this amazing thing from pallet wood in 5 minutes. They get millions of views.
They do because they look achievable, they're visually engaging, they spark that, hey, I could do that feeling.
Oh, man.
But the person actually browsing Etsy or going to a craft fair with money in their hand, they often have different motivations than someone just scrolling videos.
They're not paying for the entertainment of watching it get built.
Exactly. They're paying for the finished product, its value, its uniqueness, the quality of the work. What gets views isn't always what gets sold.
That is such an important distinction. What's popular to watch isn't necessarily popular to buy.
Absolutely critical to understand. The online world can paint a skewed picture. And it can be really discouraging for new woodworkers who try selling those simple things and don't get the results they saw hyped up online.
So the metrics are just different. Views versus actual sales revenue.
Totally different games.
Okay. So we've got why beginner projects are vital for learning but don't sell well, and why the online buzz can be misleading. Let's talk about the transition. How does someone move from practice to profit?
Right. What's the actual path forward?
Yeah, what does that look like practically?
Well, the biggest thing is you got to keep learning. You need to level up your skills beyond the absolute basics.
Go beyond butt joints and basic standing.
Definitely. Start exploring more advanced joinery. Things like dovetails.
Okay, the classic interlocking.
Yeah, super strong, look great. Or mortise and tenon joints, another really strong traditional method.
Right, skills that signal higher quality.
Exactly. And maybe look into carving or inlay work or really mastering different finishing techniques to get that professional, durable look.
So show potential buyers you've got more advanced skills.
Precisely. And then there's design and uniqueness. This is huge.
Moving beyond the generic stuff.
Yeah. Stop just copying simple plans everyone else is using. Start thinking about unique designs that serve a real purpose. Does it solve a problem? Fill a niche.
Okay. Like the example you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Not just coasters, but a coaster set with a nice storage box.
Exactly. That adds functionality, makes it feel more complete, adds perceived value.
Makes sense. It's a better overall product.
Then materials. This is a big step up.
Ditching the scrap wood pile for things you plan to sell.
Pretty much. Investing in better quality materials, even for smaller items, makes a huge difference in how it's perceived. Using nice hardwoods, good quality finishes, it just signals quality and durability.
Tells the customer you're serious about the craft.
It does. And you can also think about adding value to simpler ideas. Maybe not a complex build, but enhance it somehow. Add decorative details, some simple carving, maybe wood burning, maybe a little inlay, or mix materials, add some metal hardware, or some leather accents.
Ooh, okay. Adding interest.
Yeah. And personalization. Offer engraving, monograms.
Yeah.
People often pay a premium for that custom touch.
Right, because you can't get that easily from a big store. Makes it feel special.
Exactly. And alongside all this, you got to do your homework. Market research.
Figure out what people are actually buying.
Yeah. Go to craft fairs, browse Etsy, see what's popular in woodworking groups online, what styles are trending, what finishes do people like, what problems are people trying to solve with wood products.
You're not just building stuff you like, but stuff that resonates with actual buyers.
That's the goal. Which leads nicely into this idea of intermediate projects and batch building.
Okay, tell me about that. Batch building.
Yeah, so instead of making one unique complex thing, you pick a slightly more involved, but still manageable project, something intermediate level.
Gotcha.
And you make several of them at once, like 5 or 10, assembly line style. Ah, for efficiency.
Totally. Cut all the pieces for 10 units, then sand all the pieces, then assemble all 10, then finish all 10. It's way faster.
Okay, so what kind of intermediate projects work well for this?
Well, the sources we looked at had some good examples, like rustic cooler stands, Always popular for patios, right?
Oh yeah, those can sell for a decent price too. Source mentioned like $125 to $250.
Yeah, definitely a step up.
Hmm.
Or wishing well planters, kind of decorative, kind of functional for gardens.
Uh-huh.
Floating nightstands, maybe with a little shelf for charging phones.
Mm.
Those are popular for smaller spaces.
Practical, I like that.
Wall-mounted bottle openers, especially those with a little bin to catch the caps. Great gift item.
Yeah, easy gift. Small, shippable maybe.
Definitely. And dog bowl stands.
My
People
God.
love spoiling their pets, and a nice wooden stand can be a good seller. Maybe offer custom heights or finishes.
Okay, so these are all a step up from a basic box, but maybe not full-on furniture yet.
Exactly. Manageable to batch.
Mm.
And the key is you offer maybe a couple of simple upgrades rather than making each one totally unique, like choice of stain color
Ah,
or adding that personalization.
yeah, stuff that doesn't slow down the main production line too much, but adds value and increases your profit margin. Smart.
That is smart. Streamline production, but still offer some choice. And you mentioned the gifting market earlier, too.
Yeah, that came up specifically. Focusing on items that work well as gifts for weddings, housewarmings, holidays, birthdays can be really effective.
Why is that?
People often have a slightly higher budget for gifts, and they're looking for something that feels a bit special, a bit more thoughtful than something off the shelf. Higher perceived value often translates to willingness to spend a bit more.
Makes sense. And finally, presentation matters a lot.
Oh, absolutely. You can make a great piece, but if your photos are terrible,
No one will click on it online.
right. Good, clear, well-lit photos are non-negotiable, especially for online sales. And having some kind of consistent branding, even if it's simple, helps build trust and looks professional.
So even a modest project can look way more appealing with good photos and branding,
Huge difference. And then pricing. You need to price it right.
not just covering materials.
No. Factor in your time, your skill level, the cost of materials, maybe some overhead, and look at what the market will actually bear. Don't undervalue your work just to make a quick sale. Aim for a sustainable profit.
Got it. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The big takeaway here seems to be those beginner projects. Super valuable for learning the ropes, essential even.
Couldn't agree more. Foundational.
But generally, they're not your ticket to making real money in woodworking.
Usually not, no. The path to actually selling consistently and profitably, that involves pushing your skills further.
Getting better at joinery, finishing,
Yeah. And focusing on unique, functional designs, things that stand out.
using quality materials that reflect the value you're offering,
Uh-huh. And really understanding your market. What do people actually want to buy?
doing that research.
And finally, presenting your work professionally. Good photos, clear descriptions, fair pricing.
It's a combination of craft design and business sense, really.
That sums it up perfectly.
So, for you, the learner, listening to this, now that you've got maybe a clearer view of this landscape, here's something to mull
A
over.
little homework.
Yeah. What's maybe one specific skill? Maybe it's mastering dovetails. Maybe it's getting really good at spray finishing that you're going to focus on developing next.
Or maybe, what's one market trend or niche you're going to research further? Maybe it's personalized gifts, maybe it's outdoor furniture.
Right. Think about how you can start bridging that gap, your own gap, between just practicing and actually turning a profit.
Mm-hmm.
How can you apply these ideas of quality and uniqueness, even to seemingly simple concepts, to make your work stand out?
Good question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.